for that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man.
Okay, thank you, Guruji. I think, is there anyone from the individual class? They're still joining probably. Okay, Prabhuji, I think, yeah, we will begin with our actually discussion. So I think we started actually studying the purport last week. I think we already done first 3 paragraphs. So just to recap, actually, we discussed actually what it means, in the translation that one may aspire to live for hundreds of years. If he continuously goes on working in that way. So in that way means actually the mantra first, Ishavasya principle, right? So we know actually everything is owned by the Lord. He's the ultimate proprietor of everything. So we have to accept that. We have to realize that. And we also been given the quota. So we should realize what is our quota, and we should not transgress our quota or try to grab from anybody else's quota, right? So that should be quite straightforward. So if we actually live in that Ishavasya spirit, then we can actually, we aspire to live for hundreds of years, because there is a value to that life, living in that way. Otherwise, living just like ordinary man. So that point will come up again in the purpose. Srila Prabhupada actually mentioned that. So we'll discuss that. We also discussed last time what is karma, akarma, and vikarma. And we also touch on the point, I think in the 3rd paragraph about the varnashram dharma. And we quickly gone through the actually what are the prescribed duties for grihastha, because most of us will go through that. That's grihastha ashram. And I think that's what there was a summary that I shared from Srimad Bhagavatam. So it was just a summary, ideal grihastha life, and what one should do. And actually, most of the things that is recommended, so is actually being practiced, as a part. You are being a part of Hare Krishna WECAN, though. So we chant the holy name. We actually study the scriptures. We do the prasad distribution. So all these things, what is recommended. So any excess money we have, we engage it in a devotional service. So that was the sum and substance there. So I think we are actually try to actually practically implement those instructions there. So where it is said that actually instruction of Sri Isopanishad more elaborately explained in Bhagavad Gita, sometime called the Gitopanishad, the cream of all Upanishad. In Bhagavad Gita, so verses 3.9 to 16, Personality of Goddess says that one cannot attain the state of Naishkarma or Akarma without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literature. So just speaking about a Naishkarma, so we know what Naishkarma is now, because basically devotional service, pure devotional service is a Naishkarma. It does not give you any reaction. Actually, it helps you to actually progress on the path of devotion. So in 3.9 as well, it is said, first one 3.9, it says that work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes a bondage in this material world. O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. In that way, you will always remain free from bondage, right? So that was the main actually point. And in the subsequent verses, actually, Krishna describes, actually what is recommended in Vedas as a sacrifice, how actually these are demigods and they control various energies, and we are actually, if you are actually not on the path of devotion, then you are obligated to do the sacrifices for satisfaction of demigods. But ultimately, it concludes in the point saying that one who is fully Krishna conscious, actually, one whose devotee life in the service of the Krishna is not obligated to the actually all these ritualistic performances recommended in Vedas. Because just doing the devotional service, it is to be understood that he has performed all the sacrifices. So we don't go into details. Actually, when we study Bhagavad Gita, I think we'll understand that point. We study verse by verse. But this is the main point here is that actually the satisfaction of Vishnu, any work is done, should be done as a sacrifice for the Vishnu. And Varnashram Dharma itself, the ultimate purpose of Varnashram Dharma is to actually elevate general mass of people to the platform, the transcendental platform where they can actually begin the actual devotional service, rendering the pure devotional service to Krishna. So in Bhagavatam it is confirmed that verse says, Ataha pumbir duja sreshta varnashram vibhagashaha sanushtithasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. So it is said, O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to the caste divisions and orders of life. So basically, Varnashram them, right? So there is a caste divisions and there's orders of life. So the ultimate purpose is to please the personality of Godhead, but in today's actually in India, there is actually caste system still present. But in the purport, Srila Prabhupada clarified that point that the purpose of Varnashram there is not to actually artificially dominate in the lower caste. And that is currently happening. That's what people misuse the system. The ultimate aim of a Varnashram dharma is to actually cooperate, between these various varnas and ashramas. So ultimately, we achieve the goal to please the Krishna. Samsiddhir haritoshana. So satisfaction of Hari is the ultimate purpose. So that what we need to actually understand, why there is actually great importance is given to the prescribed duties. One has to perform the prescribed duties, but actually that has to be done as a work, sacrifice for Krishna only, to please the Krishna only. So that has to be our actually the real aim there. Also, it is mentioned towards the end of that actually paragraph that when one realizes the authority of personality of Godhead, Vasudeva or Krishna, it is to be understood that he has attained the stage of positive knowledge. In that purified stage, the modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, they cannot act. He's able to work on the basis of Naishikarma. Such work does not bind one to the cycle of birth and death. So when we say that when one realizes the authority of personality of Godhead, realize, the word is important. So having information is one thing and realizing is another thing. So actually, when one actually realizes that he's a spirit soul, and he realizes who's the supreme personality of Godhead, and the relationship between the soul and super soul, and one who acts accordingly, one who realizes that and acts accordingly, then it says that he has attained the positive state of knowledge, and that is purified stage where the modes of this material nature, it will not actually act. That's what is said here. Srila Prabhupada writes. So this actually in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, this very famous verse that confirms that, like Daivi hi esha gunamai mama maya durattaya mam eva e prapadante mayam etam tarantite. So the divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Right? So we know that this Maya and Maya Jal, whatever we call it, is very hard to actually go beyond it. So you cannot really defeat the modes. It's acting on everyone. But one who surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna says, they can easily cross beyond it. The similar point is confirmed there, where he says that Srila Prabhupada is saying that one who attained that positive knowledge, one who understands, realizes who Krishna is, and what his duty, and one who understands his constitutional position, that his only business is to serve Krishna. So it's basically what we call is a Brahma Bhuta stage, a liberated stage. Once you attain that stage, then actually you are above the modes, and on that platform, which is actually pure devotional service, you can render the pure devotional service, and that service is basically will not give you any kind of reaction. That is a Naishikar. So it's very important point to understand what that means. That actually one who attain the positive knowledge, and that purified stage, the why mode does not act, because basically it's a liberated stage, Brahmabhuta stage, what we call it. That the modes will not act on you because you transcend the modes. And actually any service you've done to Krishna on that actually transcendental platform is actually pure devotional service. Now, what we're currently doing is actually not pure devotional service. It's called Mishran Bhakti, what we call it, because we're still very much attached to materialistic activities, sense gratification. But we have actually brought Krishna in our lives. So this is the beginning. Okay, I'll share the screen and we'll actually begin from the next paragraph. Okay, who's there now? Prabhu, would you like to read today?
Yes, bro.
Okay,
Factually, no one has to do anything more than render devotional service to the Lord. However, in the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service. Nor can one completely stop fruitive work. A conditioned soul is accustomed to working for sense gratification, for his own selfish interest, immediate or extended. As ordinary man works for his own sense enjoyment, and when this principle of sense enjoyment is extended to include his society, nation, or humanity in general, it assumes various attractive names such as altruism, socialism, communism, nationalism, and humanitarianism. These isms are certainly very attractive forms of karma bandhana, karmic bondage. But the Vedic instruction of Sri Isopanishad is that if one actually wants to live for any of the above isms, he should make them God centered. There is no harm in becoming a family man or an altruist, a socialist, a communist, a nationalist, or a humanitarian, provided that one executes his activities in relationship with relationship with Ishavasya, the God centered conception.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. So here in this paragraph, what Srila Prabhupada is saying that factually no one has to do anything more than render devotional service to the Lord. Okay, so that is our actually ultimate dharma of a spirit soul, right? So spirit soul's only business is to serve God. That's our constitutional position. So that's our real business. So we have to do nothing more than that. However, in a lower stage of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop fruitive work. The conditioned soul is accustomed to working for a sense gratification, for his own self, or immediate or extended. So what does that mean? That yes, this is a philosophy, right? You tell people that, okay, you are not this body, you are a spirit soul. And spirit soul's only business is to serve Krishna, nothing else. And that is just information. And if you ask him to adopt it, is he going to adopt it straight away? Not possible, right? Probably he'll just listen and just walk away, what he's talking. So that's why one has to actually bring them step by step to this actually the higher realization. And that's what actually happens in the preaching. In Hare Krishna WECAN, you must have realized that initially when devotee comes here, we don't ask them to stop everything. What Srila Prabhupada told us, don't stop anything. Keep doing whatever you're doing. Just add Krishna. So it's basically start chanting. So actually, by chanting purifies everything. But even in the Vedas, why actually all these sacrifices and everything is mentioned? Because people here say they are very much attached to sense gratification activities, right? They want to enjoy this material world because they are under the illusion. So somehow you have to actually bring them step by step. So then the next stage comes is the actually karma kand process, right? Where actually there is some sort of religiosity there. There is a religion. So they are actually doing various sacrifices as mentioned in the Vedic scripture, right? For the satisfaction of demigods or even the Vishnu. The objective is not to become devotee. Objective is to actually earn the material benefits. Somebody want to actually elevate himself to the moon planet, maybe higher planet, Swarglobe, because they want to enjoy there. They know there is a higher standard of enjoyment. So that stage, and then Srila Prabhupada says that Karma Kand leads to the Jnana Kand leads to the, then you come to the Bhakti Yoga process, right? So step by step, you have to bring. But in the preaching, what we do is that actually we get them to chant, and chanting up Hare Krishna, especially in this Kali Yuga, is the greatest sacrifice, Mahayagni, what we call it. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Namaiva Kevalam. Kalau Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva Gatiranyata. So this is the only solution. This is the only way in this Kali Yuga, right? So to become Krishna conscious. So you cannot expect people to actually get to the pure devotional service straight away. You have to first get them to chant. Once they start chanting, then actually we get them to study all the scriptures. We go through the nectar of instruction. These are the do's and don'ts, right, of a devotional service. So slowly, we're teaching them how to become detached, right? Actually, watching movies, unnecessary talking, gossiping is not going to be helpful. Rather, you spend time reading about Krishna and conversing about Krishna. So we studied all these points in a nectar of instruction, how actually we are actually getting to the next stage. But actually, the Vedas and this Varnashram Dharma is actually designed in such a way that they elevate general mass of people, step by step to the platform, the transcendental platform. So that's what I actually meant here, that you actually cannot expect them to adopt the activities of devotional service straight away. So, and here says that actually they work for his own self-interest, intermediate or extended, immediate or extended. So either they're actually very much interested in enjoying the matter, or they are actually want to actually earn money and provide comfort to your family. Or even if you're really a little bit broad-minded, you want to do something for your community, then a nation. So Srila Prabhupada used that term, actually, it's extended sense gratification. The sense gratification is just for yourself, but when you care about your family, loved ones, community, society, whatever, then it takes the forms of the extended sense gratification. And the next point where Srila Prabhupada is saying that ordinary man works for his own sense enjoyment, and principle of sense enjoyment is extended to include society, nation, humanity. And then it assumes the attractive names, right? Altruism, socialism, communism, nationalism, humanitarianism. So all these isms, so they're very, when you hear about it, actually they are very, attractive terms. So what you do, altruism means, what is meaning of altruism? Anyone? Do you understand what altruism is? Probably it's a selfless, doing something good for others, without expecting in return for self. That's what they say. Welfare activities in easiest term. And actually communism, the communism, actually there is a lot of history in the world, communist nations. So basically everything is owned by government, and everyone works and receives. And socialism also similar, but there is a actual definition of socialism. It says that it's a political or economic theory of a social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, exchange should be owned and regulated by a community. So I think these points, I think you already discussed in the first mantra as well, isn't it? There is a constant struggle between communist and capitalist and all those things. So probably it has been discussed. But even in communism, they say that when money falls in the hand of a communist, he uses it for his own sense gratification. So all this actually attachment to the money and fraud and everything again comes there as well. So ultimately, Srila Prabhupada says that unless you come to the point that the real proprietor is Krishna, everything is owned by him, and when you realize that, and you realize that there is a quota for yourself, and you mind that quota, you're not going to be peaceful. That's actually sum and substance of the first mantra there. So here, what we're saying is that these isms, so there is again nationalism. So being a nationalist, patriotic and all that. Even actually, there are various, humanitarianism. So basically, there are a lot of institutions who are actually doing a lot of work in that sphere. What they say, they work for actually the rights of the human being. What are the rights of the human being? But they do not care about what are the rights of the other living beings, right? They're just only focusing on what what are the rights for the human being. And Srila Prabhupada actually, I think one of his lecture, he said, he mentioned that actually where there was a reference that like it's a Mayavadi philosophy where it says that where they refer to the term as a Daridra Narayana, and they actually want to do a do a prasad distribution or give the free food to the poor people and all that. And Srila Prabhupada says, yes, you want to take care of them, but you actually feeding them a meat. So what about actually goat? You are cutting them and actually feeding to the people. So what about that goat Narayan? What about that dog Narayan? You are killing them, and you are actually worrying about the poor human beings. So that is again, is hypocrisy in itself. So when you look at all this, even the humanitarianism, the nationalism, there are so many people who are patriotic, they put a lot of words, they have a lot of pride and all that. But Srila Prabhupada actually says that all these isms are certainly very attractive forms of karma bandhan. So even you may say this is a selfless activity where you're working for working for the welfare of others. But ultimately is again binding you in the karma, right? So means even if you're doing this actually, all this, maybe you're donating a lot of money, building hospitals or building, various organizations who can help, poor people or distributing medicines. So all these billionaires or millionaires, whatever in the world, they do all these altruistic activities, but you get a good karma out of that, right? So then they have to enjoy that karma. So again, you're actually being bound by the karma. You will actually have a better birth, maybe in the next life in the Sarglobe or any higher planetary system. But after you enjoying, again, Srila Prabhupada says, again you have to go through the same cycle. Birth, actually what they say, birth, death, old age, and disease. These 4 stages, they're also present in higher planetary system as well. One has to ultimately die in the end. So what Srila Prabhupada is actually recommending, he's saying that even if you want to do these isms, any form of ism, you have to make them a God-centered. Actually bring Krishna in it. And what happens then? He said there is no harm in becoming a family man or altruist or socialist or communist or nationalist, provided one executes his activities in relation with Ishavas, God-centered conception. So even if you want to do those activities, Srila Prabhupada is saying that actually bring Krishna there. Krishna should be at the center. So there is no harm in a family man. Actually, when actually this ordinary family man, what they do, they actually work very hard, earn money, take care of themselves, take care of their children, extended family. But basically, this is a sense gratification. But if you actually have Krishna in the center, if you actually chanting his names, whatever you earn, you actually use that money to buy a food which is actually offered to Krishna. And then remnants of that food you can accept as a prasad, and you feed it or your family members. So you're not getting any karma out of that. So there is actually, it will help you to progress, slowly towards this actually becoming Krishna conscious. Even actually the welfare activities, there are a lot of actually organizations who are distributing free food, so again, if you want to do that, then you actually do the prasad distribution, you actually cook and you offer to Krishna first before you do the food distribution. Because in New Zealand as well, I have seen there are many organizations, they do free food, but they're actually distributing even meat products and all that. So again, by eating those, are you really helping those people? Maybe not, because they're again accumulating so many sins and karmas, eating those animals. So if you want to actually give the food, distribute the food, then do it as a prasad. You cook Bhagavad Gita, actually, it is mentioned, what we can offer it to Krishna. So you cook the vegetarian meal and you offer it to Krishna, and then you distribute that. So at least by eating that food, all those people who are eating prasad will be benefited, because in the Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned that actually how prasad works. It's very magically that when you eat prasad, it is said that actually it purifies your body. All the cells in your body is actually slowly they purify. When all the cells in the body they are purified, then it also purifies your brain, the finer tissues in the brain. And Srila Prabhupada said, when your finer tissues in the brain are purified, then one can think about a Nivritti Marg. So Nivritti Marg is basically, there is a Pravritti Marg and Nivritti Marg. Nivritti Marg is basically, one want to actually God conscious, and one want to detach himself from these materialistic activities. And Pravritti Marg is a progressive sense gratification. One want to actually enjoy the senses. So by eating prasad, actually, it is helping him. If he actually get into that mentality where he's actually thinking about God, he want to actually realize God, he want to serve God, and ultimately want to be detached, then that prasad distribution that you're doing today may help that person in long run. So, and even one who is doing it is ultimately benefited, which is actually the real benefit that is actually a karma. He's not going to get any karma out of that. So he's also progressing. So everyone is actually benefited by actually bringing Krishna in the center. And Srila Prabhupada, I think in many cases, even being a nationalist, what is the benefit of being a nationalist? Actually, even you work whole your life, working for people or actually working for your country. You become too attached, you're patriotic. And as a result, when you die, probably you again born in the same nation. If you're really fortunate, you may be again born as a human being if you have done some good activities. Otherwise, you may be born as other lower life form in the same country. So there is no real benefit, actually doing these activities devoid of actually Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada make that very important point that actually we have to make these activities God-centered. And then actually it will be beneficial. Okay, get to the next paragraph.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
In the Bhagavad Gita 2.40, chapter 2, shloka 40, Lord Krishna states that the God-centered activities are so valuable that just a few of them can save a person from the greatest danger. The greatest danger of life is the danger of gliding down again into the evolutionary cycle of birth and death among the 8,400,000 species. If somehow or other a man misses the spiritual opportunity afforded by his human form of life and falls down again into the evolutionary cycle, he must be considered most unfortunate. Due to his defective senses, a foolish man cannot see that this is happening. Consequently, Sri Ishopanishad advises us to exert our energy in the spirit of Isha Vasya. Being so engaged, we may wish to live for many, many years. Otherwise, a long life in itself has no value. A tree lives for hundreds and hundreds of years, but there is no point in living a long time like trees, or breathing like bellows, or begetting children like hogs and dogs, or eating like camels. A humble God centered life is more valuable than a colossal hoax of a life dedicated to godless altruism or socialism.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, yeah, again here, Srila Prabhupada. So, first point is referring to Bhagavad Gita, was chapter 2, verse 40. It's very important verse where it says, Neha Vikrama Nashosti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpam apiyasya dharmasya Trayato mahato bhayat. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. A little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Right? So we have been actually, I think we have studied this verse before as well in one of our forum. That this is a very important instruction from Bhagavad Gita, that actually any little service that we do, or actually we're chanting the holy name of Krishna now, so we are engaging ourselves in some form, we're doing some form of service. So this will not go in vain. So if you progress from A to B, so even suppose if you cannot able to complete cannot able to achieve the ultimate goal of going back to Godhead, still Srila Prabhupada says that there is no loss, because in your next life there will be actually assurance that you will at least will have a human life again, and you can start from the point of B, not from A. So you're not really losing, but actually making a start on this path and progressing, and whatever progress you've done is always going to remain with you. But in material life, as we previously discussed, that anything actually you're doing, anything you earn, whatever money you make, properties you buy or whatever, actually that all ends with your body. As soon as you die, everything is taken away. Mrityu sarv harasya chaham. Krishna says that at the time of death he takes away everything, all your material opulence, whatever you have, whatever you earn, everything is taken away. But if you have earned any devotional credits, that will remain with you, eternally, and in the next life you will pick up from that point onwards. That's why sometime you will see, even when you're preaching, I think you will always see some people when they come to our program or any preaching program, sometimes they pick up these things very quickly, they progress very fast, whereas other people take a long time. So there might be some, actually the activities they perform in their previous lives that actually helping them. So Srila Prabhupada, there's a greatest fear of danger is to actually gliding down to the lower spaces of life, because you got a human life now, and human life is a life of responsibility, right? So we got the intelligence, higher intelligence, and higher intelligence is given to actually realize the actually higher purpose of a life, that is become a Krishna conscious. You have to realize who you are, who Krishna is, and what is my relationship, and what is my duty. So Srila Prabhupada says that if one fails to understand this, he's to be considered most unfortunate, because to get to the human life, it is said that you have to go through 8.4 million, yonis or spaces. You are going from one body to another body, one planet to another planet. Brahmanda Brahmite. You are actually constantly revolving. Up and down from this planet to that planet, from this body to that body, and whenever there is a body, material world, you always suffer. This birth, old age, disease, and death are always there. And I think I was reading this Srila Prabhupada's book, Matchless Gift, where he says that actually gave the Prahlad Maharaj's example there. And he said that these living entities, they're unnecessary suffering, they're going through so much pain, life after life, going through so many births and so many bodies. But one does not have to actually remain there. One has to make an effort to break this cycle of birth and death and come out of that. And human form of a life will actually ultimately give you that opportunity, because you have all the facilities is given in the human form of life, where you have the intelligence, which is the most important one, and you can self-reflect. So use all these facilities, also material facilities. You may be born in a well-to-do family, you have enough money, so use that resources to become a God conscious. So that will not go in a vain. Even that any progress you make, if you actually couldn't able to complete this path, or go back to Godhead, you will born in a family, a religious family, or in a devotee's family in your next life, as a yogi. That I think is chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita talks about these points, that that actually if somebody who has actually made some progress but could not actually ultimately complete, that he will get a actually opportunity to take a birth in very aristocratic or very rich families, right? So he will have enough, all this money and all that he do not really have to work hard for that. So all the facilities are given. So if he uses those facilities, and he can actually become a God conscious, or he will be given the opportunity to take a birth in a Brahminical family, devotees family. So Srila Prabhupada said that is best birth, because there is less chance that you will again go into actually wrong direction. Because if you're actually born in a very rich family, then because of all the money and pride and arrogance, you again you can be very easily get distracted, and go in a wrong direction there. So devotional service, there is actually no loss, no loss or diminution on that path. So that is very important point Srila Prabhupada makes. And next, he's saying that most of the people in this world do not actually realize that point unless you actually come in contact with the devotees. Somebody need to actually preach, need to teach you, who actually most of the people do not actually realize they're suffering. So when people come to this program, we make them realize that you are suffering, and you need to actually address the issue, become God conscious. And Srila Prabhupada says that there is one may wish to live for many, many years. Otherwise, long life in itself has no value. Tree lives for hundreds and hundreds of years, but there is no point in living a long life like a trees, or breathing like a bellows, begetting children like hogs and dogs, eating like a camels. Humble God-centered life is more valuable than colossal hoax of a life dedicated to a godless altruism or socialism. So very important point. One may aspire to live for long life, but if he is actually devoid of Krishna, then there is no value, because animals also live like that, trees also live like that. They beget children. So ahar, nidra, bhay, maitun. Srila Prabhupada always mentioned this, that only eating, sleeping, and mating and defending. There's actually all these things also present in animal kingdom as well. They also do these things. But human being also only if he engage himself in these activities and do not care for God realization, then there is no value to his life. So devotee's life is much better. Even he's very humble, maybe poor devotee, but if he dedicates his life in service of the Krishna, then Srila Prabhupada says that there is more value to that life than colossal hoax of a life dedicated to godless altruism. So maybe there are billionaires, millionaires, they may be spending millions of dollars helping poor people, distributing medicines, and various activities like that. But if they are not God conscious, if they do not make their activities God centered, then ultimately there is no value. So one must understand that point, that there is a great value to actually make your life God centered there. Okay. Even like a great devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only lived for about 40, 46, 48 years. So lifespan was very, very small, but the work he did, actually the teachings he gave, they're very, very valuable to the whole human society. That actually chanting of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this actually recommended in Kali Yuga. So maybe there is no value living a long life. I think it's more important how you live your life. If you actually live your life God conscious, in that spirit, this Ishava spirit, there is more value to your life than actually living like hundreds of years, and there is no actually God-centered activities. You're ultimately actually glide down to the lower spaces of life. Okay, I think last paragraph there. I think we will conclude this today.
Krishna? Yeah. When altruistic activities are executed in the spirit of Sri Isopanishad, they become a form of karma yoga. Such activities are recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse number 5 to 9. For they guarantee their executor protection from the danger of sliding down into the evolutionary process of birth and death. Even though such God-centered activities may be half finished, they are still good for the executor because they will guarantee him a human form in his next birth. In this way, one can have another chance to improve his position on the path of liberation. Should I read the last paragraph also,
Yes,
Prabhu?
read it first, yeah.
How can one execute God-centered activities is elaborately explained in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu by Srila Rup Goswami. We have rendered this book into English as the Nectar of Devotion. We recommend this valuable book to all who are interested in performing their activities in the spirit of Sri Ishopanishad.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, Srila Prabhupada is saying that altruistic activities executed in spirit of Sri Ishopanishad, they become a form of a karma yoga. So actually making those activities God-centered, so ultimately take a form of a karma yoga. And in Bhagavad Gita, and Srila Prabhupada always actually gave the reference to this verse, 9.27, Yat karosi, yad ashnasi, yaj jihosi, dadasi yat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kuruswa mad arpana. So whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that Usana Kunti as an offering to me. So Srila Prabhupada says that this is ultimate karma yoga. So you're already doing these activities. That is just a karma. But when you actually do it as an offering to Krishna, offer the results to the Krishna, then it become a karma yoga. So this is actually what we also call as a yukta vairagya as well. So even if you want to do, if you have this attachment for doing these altruistic activities, or even if you're not very much interested, you're only interested in doing actually taking care of a family, then still you can actually bring Krishna in the center there as well, and do all these things. Whatever you eat, you can actually do the shopping, you can make some nice preparation, offer it to Krishna. If you want to do some charity, you do it for the Krishna, or preaching activities. If you want to do some ceremonies, religious ceremonies, Srila Prabhupada say you can do it, actually in the home as a deity worship. So everything can be actually Krishnized. You make actually people Krishna conscious by actually engaging them in these activities. And Srila Prabhupada again make a similar point where he says that such activities, they guarantee their executor protection from the danger of gliding down into the evolutionary process of birth and death. So we just discussed that even actually by doing this, if you do not complete or achieve the ultimate objective of being Krishna conscious and going back to Godhead, still there is no loss, because you get the actually guarantee, the whoever is performing these activities, that he will at least have a human birth in the next life, so he can again begin his devotional service from that point onwards. So there is no loss ultimately. But if you are not actually make these activities God-centered, or in that Ishava's spirit, devoid of actually Krishna, then ultimately you will glide down to the lower species of life. So you can become an animal or an insect or whatever, according to whatever karma you actually performed. So that is again a real important point. And Srila Prabhupada ultimately says that in this way one can have another chance to improve his position on the path of liberation. So yeah. And the last actually paragraph, he's saying that how one can execute God-centered activities is elaborately explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. We have rendered this book into English as a nectar of devotion. We recommend this valuable book to all who are interested in performing their activities in spirit of Sri Ishopanishad. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu actually it talks about pure devotional service. It doesn't talk about karma yoga, jnana kanda or anything. It talks about pure devotional service. So if you look into the entire purport, Srila Prabhupada actually started from the point where he said that, okay, if you are only interested in sense gratification, or only interested in doing these isms, whatever, nationalism, communism, altruism, actually you make them God-centered. Then actually Srila Prabhupada is step by step, is going from karma kand to karma yoga, and ultimately he's now talking about in the last paragraph, the actually Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is pure devotional service. So he's actually progressing step by step. His purport is progressing like that. So ultimately, one has to actually progress, step by step, you have to actually progress yourself, and ultimately you come to the platform where Srila Prabhupada says you have to attain that positive knowledge, where actually you're situated on this transcendental platform where the modes will not work, where you are ultimately able to actually render the pure devotional service that will not have any reactions. That is basically what is akarm or naishkarm is. So the whole point of the whole purport, I think the akarm is very, very important here, that one must be ultimately aiming for that actually and that is actually in the simple language is a pure devotional service or rendering service to the Krishna, that will not give any reaction, and that will ultimately help you to progress on this path, and hopefully will achieve that ultimate goal, that to become Krishna conscious and go back to the Godhead. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions from anyone? You still have until Wednesday, you read the purport again, meditate on these points, and if you still have any questions, then you have to post those questions in our intermediate WhatsApp group by Wednesday. So, and if you receive the question, then I will request His Grace Amrish and probably we'll have a question and answer session. So that is your opportunity. If no questions are posted, and we discussed this with Sanjay Prabhu as well, then we will begin the next version, probably. So this is the way it is going to operate going forward, that, if there are no questions by Wednesday, then we will start the next verse. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, devotees, and thank you, Amrish Prabhu, for giving me opportunity to speak on this verse. I think we still have maybe 8 minutes. Maybe I think if Amrish Prabhu, okay, we can take a break and then come back.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Very nice. We'll do that now. We'll take a break and come back at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.